what's going on, everyone? I hope you guys have all been having an amazing day today, but I'm going to go ahead and break down my trades for you guys, so let's jump right into today's recap. And as you guys can see from the screen, right, it was a green day overall on the account, and in terms of how I did trading-wise, I only traded SQs today. Right now it's up $102, so I was able to hit my daily goal. And if you guys see, right, definitely a lot less orders than yesterday, so that's definitely a good sign considering I overtraded yesterday. And so I started trading right at market open, right, and then I didn't end up finishing until 7:30. So I was only trading for an hour today, right? And so I'm just going to go ahead and break down how I was able to make my money. But in terms of what ended up happening, right, I was pretty much noticing that the NASDAQ during the pre-market session, right, it was pretty much found a support around the bottom VWAP, was pushing up to the top VWAP and getting rejected, right? And on the bigger time frame, right, what I was noticing pretty much was, right, it was validating a support pre-market, as I mentioned, and we just had come off a few days where the NASDAQ has dropped significantly, right? It would drop, consolidate, then drop, and it was doing more consolidating, right, during the pre-market stages. So I personally thought that there was a good chance we were going to either be trading sideways or potentially pushing down today, right? There's obviously a chance that this thing could have pushed up, but I thought that since we were validating the blue EMA line, right, as a resistance level right around this area, that we could potentially try doing it again here. And so that's pretty much what I was looking out for and why I was paying attention to SQs. But in terms of what actually ended up happening, I actually executed today very, poorly. And the reason why I say that is, as you guys can see, right at market open, this thing started to shoot up, right? And I got into SQs on this fall here. When it's finally started to fall, right, I started to size up big, right, thinking that this was going to be the drop we were going to potentially have all the way down to bottom VWAP, right, since we were going to potentially trade sideways, right, and get rejected off that EMA, right, on the bigger time frame that I showed you guys, right? There was obviously a chance. Doesn't mean it had to happen, but there was obviously a chance it could. And so, right, what I pretty much saw was this thing started to sell off. I sized up heavy, and what ended up happening, this thing ended up bouncing. And so I actually did a horrible job of cutting losses. I actually didn't really cut losses until it finally broke the resistance, and I was fully sized up. So I ended up, being up on the trade, probably like, in my opinion, about $30 to $50, right? But then as this thing went south, I was down over 1% on the day, right? So that's where my huge mistake was, and I really, just bag held thinking that, this thing had to end up correcting itself, which it eventually did, but that is not the way to go about trading, right? That was just such a big mistake I made, and I'm just grateful that I'm able to learn from it now, so that when I am trading with a bigger dollar size in the future, I won't make that same mistake. But it's to not hesitate to cut the trade. If it stops going your way, immediately cut it, right? You can't be hopeful thinking it's going to end up correcting itself, because if this thing ended up continuing to shoot up, right, as I mentioned, and on the bigger time frame, say it didn't want to use it as a resistance anymore, this thing could have broken above, and it definitely had some room to gap up, right, considering how much it sold off the past few days. So that's definitely, something that I need to improve on heading into the rest of the week. Even if I think the trade's gonna end up playing out my way, if it's going south, I need to respect that, right, and manage my position size accordingly. But as this thing ended up pushing up, it ended up finally peaking out as I thought it would, right? And on this sell-off is where I finally started to recover that 1% loss I dug myself in. So I was down $100. I was able to recover it all. And then from there, right, on these last few pushes, I started to, enter the green. And obviously this thing ended up picking up back up to the EMA. And I took this one last potential play here, right? And I ended up cutting it at 7:30, right? Or 7:31. So literally almost at the bottom. I timed it perfectly. So that was just obviously luck. I didn't know exactly where I was going to find a bottom, right? So, but, I just wanted to just share with you guys that important lesson of, if I hadn't screwed up here this morning and dug myself in a huge hole by, thinking this thing had to sell off immediately, right? I could have, rather than been working my way out of $100 loss, I could have profited that, right? So it could have been a potentially, $200 plus day to day if I wasn't, too busy trying to, or pretty much just letting my ego get the best of me and not cutting losses where I know I should have, right? This thing was obviously starting to push back up, right? And I wasn't respecting that. And because of that, right, I was able to walk away with my 1% goal, but I could have done a lot better today. So, that's definitely a mistake I am going to try not to make in the future again. But as far as how the NASDAQ ended up continuing to trade, you guys can see, right? It was pretty much just trading between the top and the bottom VWAP. So you could have traded, at the lows, try to get into TQs and rid this thing up, and then as it got overextended, potentially tried an SQ play. But it really, you didn't necessarily have to be trading today. It wasn't, like the most, crazy clear day in terms of the direction, right? Where it wasn't consistently selling off or pushing up. It was more just trading sideways. And if that's your style, then that's cool, right? You can choose to trade today, but the beauty about trading is you don't actually have to trade at all, right? You could have just taken today off and chosen to just stake cash, right? And just saved it for a better opportunity heading into the rest of the week. But, right, as far as where the market is now on the 180-day, we are seeing this thing try to form a potential bounce around the SMA line, right? Because previously we have bounced around it, as you've seen here. So, we just have to follow up with it and see if this thing's going to continue to push up. And if it does, if it can break above the EMA, right? And then once it does that, the next resistance levels it has or it faces is right around this area, right? Where it's previously been rejected, right? So we just need to follow up and see if this thing's going to push up, continue to climb and break the resistance levels, or if it's going to get rejected, right? Anywhere around this area, or if it pushes up, becomes overextended, and then starts to sell off, right? So we just need to follow up with it day by day and see what happens. But that's pretty much everything I wanted to cover in today's video. Thank you guys so much for tuning back in. It really means a lot to have your support. But if you guys have any questions at all, you want me to break down any stock or stock indicator, go ahead and drop a comment and I will be more than happy to do that for you. But otherwise, that's pretty much it. I hope you guys all have an amazing day and I will see you guys in tomorrow's recap. Take care.